Hey, folks. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Doug with News and Views by Doug. Today is Wednesday, July 15th, and Persian Gulf is exploding. But I'm going to start off with another story because this one's just too disturbing. And this is going on around the country. So, about a month ago, a Denver high school teacher was accused of being inappropriate. And the Denver schools decided to fire her. And it went before a judge, and the judge said, yeah, you need to be fired. So the school board went ahead and they took a vote, and it was unanimous to fire this teacher. This teacher's name was, or is, Jennifer Honka. She was a French teacher at a high school in Denver and apparently is a lesbian. She was a French teacher, but she decided that she would have little skits being played in the room with the students. And she always chose female students in a skit where she told the females that they had to kiss. And even though the room was split 50-50 between boys and girls, there was always two girls having to kiss. Huh. Go figure. So there were other allegations that she shared her sexual life with the students. She shared that she was abused as a child. She told everyone that she used the sperm from her uncle so she could be impregnated and have a child. And did she ever teach French? No one seems to really know. But she also would force students to stay in her class even though they had to go take required exams for their school. She got into it with another teacher, reprimanding them for interfering. Apparently the teacher went to her and said, hey, your behavior is inappropriate. And you'll see a couple of videos. You'll see the news video, the board, and then one guy that seems to have a pretty good handle on what happened. But this is happening throughout our schools. And as the one guy in the video says, teachers have a lot of power over these kids. They influence them. And, except for sex ed about how babies are created, and to warn kids about diseases, sex should not be included in the classroom. Not this way.
A high school teacher accused of asking students to kiss in class was just fired by the Denver School Board.
We got our hands on the court documents in this case, and the details are a bit shocking. Over the last 8 years, Jennifer Honka mostly taught French language and culture at the district at Northeast Early College. The documents say she spoke about her personal life with students, often including her sexual orientation, using a sperm donor, her history of abuse as a child, and suicidal ideation. She also had students act out skits, calling for them to kiss. She's accused of reprimanding another teacher in front of students and refusing to allow students to leave her class to finish required exams. Honka had a 24-year teaching career. She appealed her termination, which by law triggered a judge to hear her case. After hearing the facts of the case and judge's recommendation, the DPS board voted unanimously to dismiss her.
Evidentiary and ultimate findings of fact of the hearing officer. The recommendation of the hearing officer that Ms. Jennifer Honka be dismissed on the grounds of incompetence and neglect of duty, and that the board enter its written order as required by TACTA that Ms. Honka be dismissed with immediate effect.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the floor is now open for debate. Seeing none, Ms. Atwood, would you please call roll?
Director De La Rosa?
Aye.
Director Gaitan?
Aye.
Director Hunter?
Aye.
Director Klein-Molk?
Aye.
Director Sia?
Aye.
Dr. Torres?
Aye.
Mr. Youngquist?
Yes.
Thank you. With that, the motion passes. Thank you, David.
There are not many kinds of people more dangerous than a degenerate that assumes a position of power. One group of people that I think are largely forgotten for having a tremendous amount of power and influence over the future of any country are teachers. Jennifer Hanka, a French language and culture teacher at Northeast Early College, was terminated for incompetence and neglect of duty. This was after a unanimous decision from the Denver Public Schools Board after she allegedly suggested that the students should kiss each other in skits during class. Students reported that they were very uncomfortable and didn't know what to do, and that they were sharing memes between each other about the kissing incidents. It is also reported by one of the students that was interviewed that Hanka would only select girls to participate in these kissing skits. Because despite having a 50-50 split among boys and girls in the class, the students couldn't recall a time Hanka chose a boy actor. One of the students reportedly refused to participate and testified that she received a 0 on her score for the grade during the assignment. And one student also reported that Hanka had a classroom rule that went by "the answer is always yes," which was used by her to encourage the students to participate in the skits, which is really fucking ironic because she shared with them that she was a victim of child abuse, also that she had suicidal intentions and fertility struggles. Another student reportedly walked out of class and reported to an English teacher. You get the idea.
And, you know, yesterday I talked about how a cruise ship, a Virgin cruise ship, is in the Mediterranean, and it's a gay cruise. Thousands of men on board, all having, you know, a good time. And Turkey and Egypt refuse to let them dock because they're gay. Something I've never understood was, why do gay people feel the need to let everybody in the world know they're gay? Me personally, what you do in your bedroom or motel room, that's your business. I don't need to see a pride flag flying outside your house, your business. I don't want to see these pride parades where they're going down the street and the debauchery that takes place, and, you know, male drag queens and naked people wearing leather S&M clothing going down the middle of the streets. You know, there's families there. There's little kids there. And why does the entire month of June, in San Diego it's July, why does it have to be Pride Month? Why is there even a celebration of your sexuality? I don't get it. I never will. You know, if someone I actually have a family member that we were told he was gay, and I treated him the same as I treated any of my uncles. No special, you know, nothing. So I just don't get it. Anyways, it's an amazing story coming out of Denver. Now, Thursday, President Trump has announced that he's going to be addressing the nation. And we pretty much have all figured out it's going to be about the election fraud that took place. And did you guys know that it was the Venezuelan government that started the Dominion voting system? I had no clue. It was the communist leaders of Venezuela that got it started. It was then bought by a well-known, wealthy Democrat who was running it for a while. And I think it's been sold since then. But there is proof now that there was voter fraud going on in the 2020 elections, and probably well before that. So Thursday night, it's going to be a big night. It's going to be 9 o'clock Eastern and 6 o'clock Pacific Coast time. Suggest you might want to watch. Now, President Trump also announced that he was going to start charging a service fee for getting ships through the Hormuz Straits and protect them from Iran. And I had said on this video that I really didn't agree with that because it's supposed to be an international waterway. But apparently right after I had said that, he changed his mind. He's not going to do that. But what he is doing is he's wiping out Iran. They're hitting power plants, including nuclear facility. They're wiping out the coastal areas. Iranian soldiers are dying, and they're beginning to desert because they're saying that their leaders don't care about their lives. And so for the last 24 hours, there's been some heavy bombing, both daytime and nighttime in Iran, and they're getting hit extremely hard. But what does Iran do? They're still launching missiles, and they have hit bases in Kuwait and Bahrain. Don't know how many people are being injured. They're also firing on ships in the Strait of Hormuz, which they've hit 3 in the last 24 hours. And Iran announced that they're thinking about invading some of their Gulf state neighbors. Bahrain, real small country, Kuwait. They're talking about invading them. Yeah. I really would like to see them try. They also made the announcement, one of their ministers, that he has a plan to go and kidnap at least 100 American soldiers and hold them hostage. Again, I would really enjoy Iran trying to do that. They have no clue the hell that will be unleashed. Look what the United States did just to rescue a pilot that had been shot down. First of all, those 100 American soldiers would fight and probably kill most of the attackers. But then the naval gun support, the air support, the 82nd Airborne, the U.S. Marines, I think they would kind of all show up to support those 100 troops. So Iran, come on. Keep your promises. One thing that hasn't really been released to the Western world, but was released to the Iranian world, is that 2 of their big-time ministers that were screaming the most about retaliation against the United States and no way should we negotiate, or no way they should go negotiate with us, they've apparently been removed from office. There's a lot of dissension going on with the Iranians. And, there's more level-headed minds that are trying to stop and negotiate. But it's coming down to, apparently there's a couple of IRGC generals down in the southern portion of Iran, or around the Straits of Hormuz. And apparently they're running the country. They're the ones with all the missiles, and they're the ones launching them. So it just, it's just unbelievable. Iran is going to be completely wiped out. Trump is going after their nuclear power stations, their other power stations. He's going after their water facilities. He's going after their transportation and bridges. And, back when President Reagan became the president of the United States, the Iranians were holding Americans hostage at the American embassy. And I believe they had them for 444 days as hostages. Well, Jimmy Carter was president at the time, and he sent Delta Force in, and it was a complete bullshit mission. Didn't work. So President Reagan won the election to become president, and he announced to the world before he became president, he warned the Iranian leaders, the Ayatollah, if you don't release my people on the first day of my presidency, I'm taking out your transportation. On the second day of my presidency, if you haven't released them, I'm taking out your power structure. On the third day of my presidency, if you haven't released them by then, I'm going to take out your oil production. The Iranians released those hostages before Reagan took office. The only thing these dictators value besides their own power is their greed. And right now, Trump is completely wiping out Iran's economy. He's wiping out their infrastructure. He's taking out their leaders. And word's now getting out that there's more resistance fighters popping up everywhere in Iran fighting against the IRGC. And these resistance groups are joining other resistance groups. And then, of course, you have the Kurds that are in the West, and they're killing the IRGC. So Iran's going down, but these fanatical leaders, it's either stupidity or just being proud that they can't just walk away. They can't negotiate and leave. So It's things aren't improving, but we'll see what happens on Thursday when President Trump talks about the election fraud that took place in 2020. The SAVE Act has been attached to a military appropriations bill, and they're hoping to get it passed by that. And the SAVE Act is where you now have to show proof that you're an American citizen before you can vote. And the Democrats are all against it. The American people, 87% of the American people have said they're for it. But the Democrats are saying, oh no, if you don't have ID, if you're a woman who got married and hasn't changed, gotten paperwork for her new name, she won't be able to vote. That's all bullshit. You have to show an ID to buy a gun, ammo, liquor, get onto an airplane. Where else? Oh, cigarettes. What else do you have to show to get an ID? I needed a birth certificate because California requires that I need more than a driver's license to buy weapons and ammo. So I simply went online, filled in my information, and guess what? Within a week and a half, I had a certified birth certificate. I don't need to get one of those real IDs to get on a plane because I can use my Veterans Administration ID to get on the plane. There are easy ways to prove who you are. And we're trying to stop the illegals from voting. And the Democrats, we showed a video yesterday. They basically, we had a senator. She was also one of the 6 Democrats that was telling our military to not obey the President of the United States and his orders. She was one of those. But she said yesterday in a speech to other Democrats that if the SAVE Act goes through, the Democrats may never win an election again. Which just proves that they've been cheating for years. So, anyways, enough of me. If you have a comment, please leave it. Please like and subscribe the channel. Need your support if we're going to continue to grow. And again, on these videos, I usually say this in the very beginning. This channel is where I basically give my observations and opinions on world events, politics, and pretty much anything else I feel like talking about. I'm also telling you folks every day, be aware of your surroundings, take care of yourself, your family and friends, and just be aware that there are people out there who want to hurt you for no other reason than you're an American. And I'm just telling you folks, please be safe out there. So here's the quote of the day, and it's a quote. Hopefully everyone will recognize it. It comes from our Constitution, our U.S. Constitution, and the opening. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union. The U.S. Constitution is an amazing piece of paper. And the ideals behind it are there's no other words. The United States is the greatest country to ever have existed in the history of mankind. Yes, we make mistakes. We try to improve. But you don't see too many people fleeing the country. But everybody wants to come here. So anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. And I appreciate your time.